This conference will now be recorded.
All right, William.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm William Tramper, president of Azimuth Aerospace Solutions. Here to talk to you today about our electronics trainers that we manufacture and offer. Today I just want to give you a brief overview of our three most popular trainers. The one that you see on the screen, we'll start with that one. That's the KV920, very popular trainer. It can grab your attention. It's very eye-catching, especially if you walk up onto it at an air show like AirVenture, and you see the lights on and things are flashing, things are happening that can grab your attention and generate some interest in aviation and electronics, and that's a good thing. You might also happen to stumble across this if you're walking through the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, who now has a few of these trainers as well. So we'll kind of give you a brief overview of this one, then we'll move on to a couple of our other electronics trainers. Now, when you start thinking about teaching electronics or basic electricity in an A&P school or an avionics school, the trainers that we offer are going to be kind of scalable, or it's really going to depend on which or what level of electronics you're teaching. If you're just introducing a student to the world of electronics and the world of aviation and getting them acclimated to things like series and parallel circuits and how things are wired and how electricity flows, then this is a great trainer to start with. This is an introductory trainer that can really, generate that interest and get things rolling. And it's a pretty simple trainer. It's not overly complex like some of our other trainers, so it's not intimidating at all and things like that. Very easy to learn on. And so essentially, it does a few different things. One thing is it is, as you can see, an outline or a silhouette of a single-engine aircraft, a general aviation type aircraft. And the LED lights on this are designed to replicate the external lights of the aircraft. So we have taxi lights in the lower cowl. We've got an anti-collision light that flashes up on top of the tail. We've got navigation lights, red and green, in the wingtips. And we've got LED landing lights in the leading edge of the left wing of the aircraft. And so this trainer is laid out like an instrument panel of an aircraft. You've got a rocker switch as your master switch. You've got individual toggle switches for each of your lighting systems. So you can use this trainer to teach the, someone who's interested in becoming a pilot even can learn about how external lights are used on an aircraft, both in the air and on the ground. That's kind of the starting basis of this trainer. Now, when you start wiring it up, they start learning about series and parallel circuits, how electricity flows, and basic electricity topics and subjects. So you can use it for that, and then the manual will lead you through all the lab exercises and things like that. It'll eventually get to where you're going to use a multimeter. So you're introducing the student to a meter that can measure current, measure voltage, measure resistance, and learn how to master those skills of using a meter in using this trainer. Once they've mastered that and they're comfortable using the meter and understand the theory of how the electrical circuits work and things like that, one of the nice features that we added on this trainer, I'm going to move over here and spin it around a little bit, is we added a fault panel on the back of it. So if I spin this around, you can see there's switches on the back that are one for each of the lights on the front, and then there's also 4 switches that represent the circuit. So I can simulate that I have a blown fuse in one of the circuits. I can also individually, create an open or a short in any of the individual LEDs on the front of the panel. So this makes it something that can be used to introduce students to the world of troubleshooting, which is often hard to do with desktop trainers and things like that. Even hard to do on an aircraft, because you don't want to go out to an aircraft and induce a short in the wiring of the aircraft. That can be sometimes dangerous. So we found a way to safely do this in a lab environment using this trainer. So it works out really well. So that's the KV920. So primarily used to introduce the students to aircraft, external lights of an aircraft, how to use a digital multimeter, basic electricity, series and parallel circuits, and troubleshooting. So that's the KV920. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take a second and swap this trainer out on my little turntable here, and I'm going to throw up the CES 500 trainer. This is kind of the next level of training or teaching electronics. So let me get that up there, and I'll start going through that one. Okay, so this is the CES 500. It is an electronics trainer that can be used to build circuits. It's much more intuitive and easier to use than a breadboard with individual components. It is a self-contained. All of our trainers are self-contained boxes. So that means that there's no external parts that you have to manage or swap out, no circuit cards you have to swap out or anything like that. All you do is use patch cords which come in the accessory kit with the trainers, and you build your circuit. You have a bank of resistors across the middle here. You've got potentiometers and switches, transistors, and things like that. What I really like about this trainer is how it's laid out. Across the top, you have all your power. You got power, AC power, DC power section, and you got a wave generator that can be used to generate like a sine wave, sawtooth wave, or square wave. So you have all these different power options available to use to power different types of circuits. And then I really like how the bottom part is laid out, where you have an input section on the left, and then you have a process section, and then you have the output over on the right. So everything kind of flows through it. The signal will start at the input, it'll be processed, and then flow to the output. And over in the output section, you got lamps for visual cues. You got speaker and a buzzer for audio cues for those outputs. So you build your circuits, and the nice thing about this is that after you put all your patch cables in and build a circuit, you can test a circuit, you can power it up, test it, analyze it. Even if you want to change a value of something, you want to change like a resistor from a 10K to a 15K. All you got to do is take the two wires out of the 10K, move it over to the 15K. There's no individual resistors you got to swap out, because everything is right behind the panel, behind those jacks. So this is a really nice trainer, and as far as the scope of this, what it's used for, it can be used for that introduction to basic electricity. So your 147 curriculum, where you're teaching the basic electricity, this is a great trainer for that curriculum. And it can also be used to teach all the way up to a full-blown avionics program, where somebody's getting their aircraft electronics technician certification from NCAT or CTS. It's a really nice trainer for doing that. Now, this was some of you may have some of the old CES Industries trainers. I actually acquired the company about 4 years ago, and I've worked on modernizing the trainers and improving them from the original designs. This is one of them that was I acquired from CES Industries, no relation to Composite CES, Cindy, but CES Industries is based out of New York, and they kind of discontinued a lot of the trainers. I picked them up and started resurrected the manufacturing of them. And as part of the modernization and improvements that I'm doing to these trainers, it looks a little different. It's in a little bit different style case, but more importantly with this trainer in particular is after the success of the KV920 with that fault panel on the back of it, I wanted to add a fault panel to this one. So what I did is I took on the back of this one, I made an even bigger fault panel. It has 32 different fault switches. Half of the switches can be open or short, or I mean open or normal. So that's the ones on the left. You basically a two-position switch. Its normal is down. You flip it up, and you've induced an open in one of the circuits in the front of the panel. On the right-hand side, those are open, short, and or normal. So you can so there's 16 fault switches there where you can safely induce either an open or a short in the circuits on the front of the panel. So there's a lot of versatility with this, and a lot of things you can teach with it, in particular the troubleshooting. So the original model of this trainer is the CES 500. The one that has the fault panel on it, we call that the CES 500F, F being for fault. So that's the distinction between the two trainers. So some of those things that can be faulted is there's a few of the resistors that you can either create an open in the resistor, or you can short across the resistor. You can do the same with inductors, diodes, transistors, like the collector to base of Q1 can be opened to simulate a fault there. Some of the switches, the momentary switch and a couple of the other switches can have faults in them. The lamps, the photo cell, even the DC power input can have an open in it, and one of the ground jacks as well. So a lot of things that can be used, or a lot of things can be taught using this trainer. So this is going to cover a big portion of the 147 basic electricity curriculum, and a big portion of the AET standard if you're teaching the full-blown avionics program. I've got one more trainer I want to show you in the top 3 of our most popular trainers. And so this here is basically covering your digital electronics. I want to show you a trainer that's going to cover your, or I'm sorry, this one covers your analog electronics. The other trainer I want to show you covers your digital electronics. So let me throw that one up on the turntable. Let the camera focus a little bit there. All right, so this one here is laid out very similar to how the CES 500 is laid out. Everything's kind of boxed and framed in to keep things together. In the 147 curriculum, you do need to teach logic gates and in some digital electronics like numbering systems and things like that. This can do all of that. In the big portion in the bottom of it here is the logic gates. You have AND gates, NAND, OR, NOR, exclusive OR, and NOT gates. And using all of those gates, you can build practically any circuit in there. You can build half adders and full adders. You can build counters and things like that. So a lot of versatility with what you can build with those logic gates. We have across the top, we have a bank of JK flip-flops that can be used in different configurations. The JK is the most universal flip-flop that there is. So it can be used as a set reset flip-flop or just as a toggle flip-flop. And there's outputs that are both complementary and not basic. So use the flip-flops, and for the toggle and the timing of it, we have a system clock down here that has 3 different frequencies. And then over on the right-hand side, we have a display output that's a dual 7-segment LED that can do hexadecimal numbers. And then we have individual LEDs and switches for controlling the circuits down at the bottom. And we have an expansion jack at the top right where you can add more chips to it, integrated circuits that you can use as expansion. So this is a great trainer for teaching the digital electronics and digital numbering systems and digital logic gates. So those are oh, and I just want to mention there's no fault panels on this 750 trainer. This is called the CES 750. And so those are our 3 top models: the KV920, the CES 500, along with the 500F and version of it, and then the CES 750 trainer. So those are our top sellers right now, and they're basically covering everything that you need in the 147 curriculum for teaching electricity and basic electronics. So if there are any questions from those that are on the conference here, I'd be willing to entertain anything you have.
Any questions for William? I think that worked out with your presentation. That was a good creative solution to showing the product. So appreciate that, the thought behind that.
Yeah, thank you. Glad it worked out.
Yeah, we have to get creative, right, when we're doing All right. Thanks very much. Appreciate you. Like I said, we'll post these afterwards, probably on our exhibitor page, so that everybody will have access. And then we can have the next one. Snap-on will be next. We've got 15 minutes. So again, we'll just take a short break and then we'll tee up for Snap-on in just a minute. So thanks again, William.